You believe that loneliness is a wound. You believe that being surrounded by people is proof that your life is working. You believe that if you walk alone, something has gone wrong with you. But you are wrong. You are wrong about all three, and that wrongness has cost you years of your life. The truth is simpler and far more brutal than anyone told you. Solitude is not the punishment for failing at connection. Solitude is the price of admission to your own power. Every man and every woman who ever changed the direction of their own destiny paid that price first, and they paid it in silence, in rooms where no one clapped, in seasons where no one called. There is a force that operates in that silence. It moves without noise. It works on you while the world assumes you have disappeared. It strips away the voices you borrowed and gives you back the one voice you were born with. It has been called many things by many people, but I call it what it is. I call it the refining silence. It is the invisible hand that shapes the ones who become unstoppable, and it only touches those who are willing to be alone long enough to be touched. You do not become strong in the crowd. You become strong in the room where no one is watching. You do not find your voice by listening to everyone. You find it when everyone stops talking. And here is what happens to those who never learn this. They stay busy, they stay surrounded, they stay entertained, and they die full of noise and empty of purpose, having spent 70 years asking other people who they were supposed to be, and never once sitting still long enough to hear the answer. They confuse company for meaning. They confuse being liked for being alive. And then the years run out, and the crowd that filled their calendar does not fill their grave. So let me ask you something, and I want you to hold it, because I am not going to answer it yet. If every voice around you went quiet tomorrow, if no one called, if no one watched, if no one applauded, who would you become? Would you find a stranger in that silence, or would you finally meet yourself? Hold that question. It is going to follow you for the next hour. Now breathe. Slow down. There is no rush in what I am about to share with you, because the thing I am about to describe cannot be rushed. It has its own timing, and it answers to no one. There is a pattern buried in the oldest stories humanity has kept, and once you see it, you will never be able to unsee it. Every single figure in the scriptures who was entrusted with something enormous was first taken somewhere empty. Not somewhere comfortable, not somewhere celebrated, somewhere empty. The desert, the cave, the prison, the backside of the mountain, the belly of the fish, the garden at night when everyone else fell asleep. God does not build in crowds. God builds in quiet. And this is where it connects with something Napoleon Hill spent his entire life trying to explain to people who did not want to hear it. Napoleon Hill said that the mind achieves its greatest power in the condition he called creative solitude, that state where the conscious noise finally falls away and something deeper begins to speak. He said that no one ever received a truly great idea in the middle of a conversation. The ideas that change lives arrive in the quiet, and they arrive to people who have made room for them. You have not made room. That is the first thing I need you to understand tonight. Your mind has not had an empty moment in years. You wake and reach for the screen. You eat with noise playing. You drive with voices talking. You fall asleep with something else speaking into your ears, so you do not have to hear yourself. And then you wonder why you have no clarity, no direction, no sense of who you are. You are not lost. You are crowded. There is a difference, and that difference is everything. Consider Moses. Everyone remembers the sea splitting and the plagues and the mountain burning. Almost no one remembers the 40 years before any of that. 40 years on the backside of a desert, watching someone else's sheep in a land where his name meant nothing. He had been a prince. He had been educated in the greatest institution of the ancient world. He had power, position, an identity handed to him by the most powerful empire on earth. And all of it was stripped away, and he was placed in silence for 4 decades. Do you understand what that does to a man? 40 years is not a season. 40 years is a lifetime. Every day he woke up in that emptiness and nothing happened. No sign, no confirmation, no crowd telling him he was destined for something. Just sand, sheep, and silence. But something was happening. Something enormous was happening, and it was happening precisely because nothing else was. The Egypt in Moses was being burned out of him. The borrowed identity was being scraped away layer by layer until what remained was not a prince, not an exile, not a shepherd. but a man who could stand before the most powerful ruler on earth and not flinch, because he no longer needed that ruler's approval to know who he was. The desert did not waste Moses. The desert made Moses. And when the bush finally burned, when the voice finally came, notice where it came. Not in the palace, not in the city, not in the middle of a gathering. It came on the back side of the desert, in the place where no one else was standing. The voice comes where the crowd is not. Napoleon Hill said that every adversity carries within it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, but that seed only germinates in the mind that is quiet enough to notice it. Moses spent 40 years in what looked like the seed of failure. It was the seed of deliverance for an entire nation. He could not have seen it in the noise, he could only see it in the silence. Now hear me carefully, because this is where it turns personal. The season you are calling wasted, the season where nothing is happening, the season where the phone does not ring and the invitations stopped and the people who used to be around you moved on. That season is not punishment. That season is preparation. The silence around you is not the absence of God. The silence around you is the presence of God working on the only material he can actually shape, which is you. You cannot be shaped while you are performing, and that is what the crowd does. The crowd turns you into a performance. Every room you walk into with people in it, some part of you begins to calculate. What do they expect? What version of me works here? What should I say? How should I sound? Who should I be right now? You do this so automatically, you no longer notice you are doing it. And after 20 years of it, you genuinely do not know which parts of you are you and which parts are the costume. Solitude takes off the costume. That is why it terrifies you. Not because you are afraid of being alone. You are afraid of what you will find when the audience leaves and there is no one left to perform for. You are afraid the applause was holding you together, and there is a part of you that suspects quietly that if the noise stopped, you might discover there is nothing underneath. There is something underneath. I promise you there is something underneath. But you will never find out until you go there. Let me tell you about a young man who was thrown into silence against his will. Joseph was 17 when his brothers put him in a pit. 17. He had dreams that were larger than his life, and he made the mistake of speaking them out loud to people who could not carry them. And so they stripped him. They threw him into a hole in the ground, and they sat down and ate lunch while he screamed. Then he was sold. Then he was a slave in a foreign house where he did not speak the language. Then he was accused of something he did not do, and he was thrown into a prison. And the scripture says something devastating about that prison. It says they hurt his feet with fetters, and he was laid in iron. 13 years. 13 years of Joseph being taken further and further from every human being who had ever known his name. And every single one of those years, the dream stayed alive. That is the thing I need you to see. The pit did not kill the dream. The slavery did not kill the dream. The prison did not kill the dream. Because the dream was never being sustained by his circumstances. It was being sustained by something inside him that no circumstance could reach. And that inner thing grew stronger every year that the outer world got quieter. If Joseph had stayed home, surrounded by his family, comfortable and coddled and constantly affirmed, he would have been a boy with a dream and nothing else. The pit made him a man. The prison made him a ruler. The silence made him unstoppable. Napoleon Hill said that the majority of people meet with defeat because they quit at the exact moment when temporary setback had done its full work and success was one step beyond. Joseph did not quit in year 1. He did not quit in year 7. He did not quit in year 12, when the cupbearer he had helped walked out of that prison and forgot him for 2 more years. He stayed. And when the door finally opened, he walked out of that prison and into the second highest position in the known world in the space of a single day. 1 day. 13 years of preparation and 1 day of promotion. Everyone sees the day. No one wants the 13 years. If you have been in your 13 years, if you are in the middle of it right now, if you are sitting somewhere tonight wondering whether anything is ever going to move, I want you to type 1 word in the comments. Type the word alive, just that. Because the fact that you are still standing, still hoping, still listening at this hour, proves that the thing inside you is still burning and the silence has not put it out. Type it. Let me know you are still in the pit and still holding. Now let me tell you what the refining silence actually does, because I have named it, but I have not yet shown you its mechanics. There are 3 things it removes, and 3 things it builds, and every person who has ever become truly unstoppable has been through all 6. The first thing it removes is the borrowed voice. You have been told who you are since before you could speak. Your name was chosen for you. Your religion was handed to you. Your ambitions were suggested by teachers who did not know you and parents who were projecting their own unfinished lives onto yours. Your sense of what is possible was calibrated by the average of the people around you. By the time you were 20, you had a fully assembled identity that you did not build. And you have been operating it ever since, like it was yours. In solitude, that borrowed voice starts to fade. Not immediately. At first it gets louder because it panics. It has never been challenged, and it does not intend to go quietly. The first week alone is torture. The first month is worse. Everything in you screams to go back to the noise, to call someone, to fill the space, because the borrowed voice knows that if the silence lasts long enough, you will start to hear a different one. But if you stay, it fades. And underneath it, faint at first, is something that has been trying to speak to you your entire life. Elijah found this. He had just called down fire from heaven in front of an entire nation, the greatest public spectacle of his career. And immediately after, a woman threatened his life and he ran into the wilderness and asked God to let him die. Understand the sequence. Greatest triumph, immediate collapse, because the triumph was public and the collapse was internal, and the public thing had never touched the internal thing. So God sent him further out, 40 days into the desert, to a cave on a mountain. And there came a great wind that tore the mountains apart, and God was not in the wind. And there came an earthquake, and God was not in the earthquake. And there came a fire, and God was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice, a still small voice. The God who had answered with fire in front of the crowd answered with a whisper in the cave. Because the crowd needed a spectacle, Elijah needed the truth. And the truth does not shout. The truth waits until everything else is exhausted, and then it speaks so quietly that you have to have gone into the wilderness to hear it. You have been waiting for God to shout. He has been whispering for years. You just have not been anywhere quiet enough. The second thing the refining silence removes is the need for approval. This is the deepest chain and the hardest to break. Everything you do is contaminated by it. You choose your career partly by how it sounds when you say it out loud. You post things and check to see who responded. You make decisions and then run them past 4 people, not for wisdom but for permission. You have never in your adult life made a single major choice without first checking whether the crowd would sign off. And here is what that costs you. It costs you your destiny, because your destiny is by definition something no one around you has walked, and therefore something no one around you can approve. If they could approve it, it would not be a calling. It would be a consensus. Napoleon Hill said that the man who is afraid of criticism is already defeated, and that this fear is the most destructive of all the basic fears because it robs a person of initiative, destroys their imagination, and closes the door on their own achievement. He said most people carry it from childhood and never once examine it. Solitude examines it. Solitude puts you in a room with no one to approve of you and forces you to discover whether you can still function. And the first time you make a decision that no one applauded and it works, something breaks in you that never grows back. The chain snaps. And from that moment on, you are dangerous, because a person who does not need permission cannot be controlled. The third thing it removes is the illusion of urgency. Everything in the crowded life feels urgent. Every message must be answered. Every trend must be tracked. Every opportunity must be seized right now before it disappears. And so you spend your entire life running toward things that were never important, at a speed that made it impossible to notice they were not important. Silence has no urgency in it. That is the first thing you notice and the first thing that unsettles you. Nothing is happening. Nothing needs to happen. And in that absence, you finally start to see which of the 100 fires you have been putting out were actually your fires, and which ones you were handed by people who did not want to carry them. Most of your life is not yours. Sit alone for 30 days, and you will see it. You will see that half your ambitions were inherited. You will see that most of your opinions were absorbed rather than chosen. You will see that a significant portion of your calendar exists to prevent you from having exactly the kind of empty afternoon you are now sitting in. And you will see, and this is the hardest one, that you built the noise on purpose. Nobody forced it on you. You constructed a life with no gaps in it, and you did it because some part of you understood that a gap is where the truth gets in. Napoleon Hill said that the greatest enemy of achievement is not failure but drifting, the state of moving constantly without ever choosing a direction, and that a drifter can be enormously busy and still be going nowhere. He said the drifter's defining trait is that they never spend time alone with their own thinking, because thinking would reveal the drift. You are not lazy. Lazy people are easy to fix. You are busy in the exact way that guarantees you never have to look. Now let me tell you what it builds, because removal is only half the work. The first thing the refining silence builds is the inner witness. There comes a point in solitude, usually after the panic has passed, where you begin to notice something strange. You begin to watch your own thoughts instead of being your own thoughts. A fear arises, and instead of drowning in it, you observe it. Anger comes, and instead of becoming it, you see it move through. This is the beginning of actual power, because the person who is their thoughts is a slave to every wind that blows through their mind. The person who can watch their thoughts is a king, and you cannot develop this in noise. It requires stillness, the way a photograph requires the camera to stop moving. David built this in the fields. Years alone with sheep, years with nothing but sky and silence, and the sound of his own voice singing to a God he could not see. And when he finally stood in front of a 9-foot warrior, while an entire army trembled, he was not brave because he was fearless. He was steady because he had spent years learning to watch fear rather than obey it. He had killed the lion in private. He had killed the bear in private. No one saw those, no one made a song about those. But by the time Goliath showed up, David had already fought that fight 100 times where no one was watching. Every giant you defeat in public was defeated in private first. That is the sentence I want you to carry out of tonight. Read it twice. Every giant you defeat in public was defeated in private first. And if you are losing in public, it is not because you lack courage, it is because you skipped the private work. The second thing solitude builds is the capacity for depth. Shallow water is loud, deep water is silent. That is not poetry, it is physics, and it is also the exact truth about human beings. The loudest people you know are usually the emptiest, and the ones with the most inside them tend to say the least. You have met someone like that. Someone who walked into a room and did not perform, did not fill the space, did not need to be noticed, and yet somehow the entire room noticed. That is not charisma. That is depth. That is the residue of a person who has spent real time alone. You cannot fake it. You cannot buy it. You cannot learn it from a video, including this one. It is deposited in you hour by hour in rooms where nothing happens. Napoleon Hill said that the subconscious mind works continuously, day and night, but that it does its most powerful work when the conscious mind is at rest, and that the greatest achievers he studied all had the habit of deliberately going quiet, of sitting alone with a single idea and letting it work on them. He called it the process of turning a thought over to the deeper mind. He said that the people who never go quiet never give the deeper mind anything to work with, and so they live their entire lives operating on the surface of themselves. The surface of yourself is not enough to build a life on. The third thing solitude builds, and this is the one that makes you unstoppable, is self-trust. Understand what self-trust actually is. It is not confidence. Confidence is a feeling, and feelings leave. Self-trust is evidence. It is the accumulated proof gathered over time that when things get hard, you do not abandon yourself. That when no one is coming, you show up. That when the crowd is gone, you are still there. You can only build that alone. Because in the crowd, you never find out. You are always propped up. Someone encourages you and you keep going, and you never learn whether you would have kept going without them. Someone believes in you and you rise to it, and you never learn whether you could have risen on your own. The crowd steals the test, and without the test there is no proof, and without proof there is no trust. But alone, there is nothing between you and yourself. You said you would get up at 5. No one knows, no one is watching, no one will ever find out. And you get up anyway. And something inside you takes note. Do that 100 times, and you become a person you can rely on. Do that 1,000 times, and you become unstoppable. Because the only thing that ever stops anyone is the private suspicion that they will not follow through. Napoleon Hill said that self-discipline is the master key, and that a person who cannot command themselves will always be commanded by circumstance. But he also said something people miss. He said the process is not about force. It is about developing a relationship with yourself in which your word means something. And you cannot develop a relationship with someone you are never alone with. You are never alone with yourself. Think about that. You have known yourself your entire life, and you have never spent a full day in your own company without a distraction. You would not marry someone you had never had a conversation with, and yet you are going to spend 80 years with yourself, and you have never actually sat down and met the person. Let me take you somewhere uncomfortable now. There is a reason you avoid solitude, and it is not the reason you think. You tell yourself you are busy. You tell yourself you are a social person. You tell yourself you get lonely, you get restless, you get bored. These are all true, and none of them are the reason. The reason is grief. In the silence, everything you have not felt comes up. Every loss you moved past too quickly. Every apology you never received. Every version of your life that did not happen. Every person who left and never explained. Every dream you buried at 25 because someone laughed at it. All of it is still in there, and the noise has been the lid. And so when you sit down in a quiet room, the first thing that arrives is not peace. It is the flood. And you cannot bear it, so you get up after 4 minutes and reach for the phone, and you tell yourself you are just not a meditative person. You are not avoiding silence. You are avoiding what silence releases. But listen to me. The flood is the healing. It is not the obstacle to the healing, it is the healing itself. Everything you have not felt has been running your life from underground. It is why you overreact to small things. It is why certain people trigger something in you that is completely out of proportion. It is why you sabotage the good thing right when it starts working. Underground grief does not stay underground. It comes out sideways. Solitude brings it up the front way, where you can see it, where you can finally let it move through and out. Jacob understood this. He spent his whole life running. He ran from his brother. He ran from his father-in-law. He ran from the consequences of who he had been. And one night, alone at a river crossing, he sent everyone he loved to the other side and stayed by himself. And in that solitude, a man wrestled with him until daybreak. That was the night his name changed. Not in the crowd, not with his family watching. Alone in the dark in a fight he could not win and would not quit. And when the sun came up, he was limping, and he was different, and he was never called Jacob again. You want the new name without the wrestling. Everyone does. But the name comes out of the fight, and the fight only happens when you send everyone to the other side of the river and stay. If something just moved in you, if you felt that in your chest, do not scroll past it. Take 1 second right now and hit that like button. And if this is speaking to something you have been carrying, subscribe and turn on the bell, because I make these for the people who are willing to stay in the room when it gets hard. That is you. You are still here at this hour. That means something. Now let me give you something practical, because everything I have said is worthless if it stays a concept. I want you to do something tonight, and then I want you to do it for 30 days. Find 1 hour. It does not have to be an hour at first. Start with 20 minutes if an hour terrifies you, but find it and protect it the way you would protect the life of someone you love, because that is exactly what you are protecting. In that hour, there is no phone, not on silent, not face down, in another room. There is no music, there is no book, there is no notebook, not at first, because even writing is a way of performing for a future reader. There is nothing. Just sit. The first 10 minutes your mind will list every task you have not done. Let it. Do not fight it. Watch it list them. Around minute 15 you will feel a physical restlessness, an actual bodily discomfort, and you will invent an urgent reason to get up. Do not get up. That restlessness is withdrawal. You are detoxing from stimulation, and the body protests exactly like it protests any withdrawal. Around minute 25, something shifts. The lists stop. The urgency drains. And into the space, something else begins to rise. And it is usually uncomfortable. And it is usually the thing you have been running from for years. Stay with it. You do not have to solve it. You do not have to understand it. You just have to stop running from it long enough for it to finish saying what it came to say. And around minute 40, if you stay, there is peace. Not a happy feeling. Something better. A kind of settling. A sense of being at home in yourself that you have not felt since you were a child. That is your baseline. That is who you are underneath the noise. And every single day you go back there, that person gets a little stronger, until eventually you can carry that stillness out into a loud room and it does not leave you. That is what it means to become unstoppable. Not that nothing hits you. That nothing that hits you takes you out of yourself. Now let me give you the second practice, and this one you do in the morning. Before you speak to anyone, before you look at a screen, before the world tells you who you are today, you tell yourself first. Out loud. Your own voice, in your own ears, in the room where no one else is. Say this: I do not need a crowd to know who I am. I am not waiting for permission. What God is building in me is being built in the quiet, and it is being built whether anyone sees it or not. I am not behind. I am becoming. Say it slowly. Say it like you mean it. And if you do not mean it yet, say it until you do. Because the mouth leads the heart more often than the heart leads the mouth. Napoleon Hill said that any thought repeated with emotion and conviction will eventually be accepted by the subconscious mind as a command, and that this is not mysticism, it is simply how the deeper mind is constructed. It does not evaluate, it accepts, and it has been accepting the things you have been saying about yourself for 30 years, which is exactly why your life looks the way it does. Change the sentence, and you begin to change the structure. And the third practice is at night, and it is the most important of the three. Before sleep, when the house is quiet, ask yourself one question, not out loud, just hold it. Was I myself today? Not was I productive? Not was I good? Was I myself? Did I say the thing I actually meant, or did I say the acceptable version? Did I make the choice I wanted, or the choice that would go over well? Was there any moment today where I was the person I am when no one is watching? Do not judge the answer, just look at it honestly, and then let it go and sleep, because the subconscious works all night on whatever you hand it before you close your eyes. Hand it that question, and in ways you will not be able to trace, it begins to reorganize your life around the answer. Now I want to come back to something because I have not been fully honest with you yet. There is a difference between solitude and isolation, and if you confuse them, everything I have said will destroy you instead of building you. Isolation is running away from people. Solitude is walking toward yourself. They look identical from the outside, and they are opposite in every way that matters. Isolation is fueled by fear, by resentment, by the belief that people are dangerous and you are safer alone. It shrinks you, it hardens you, it makes you bitter and strange, and eventually it makes you cruel, because a person cut off from all connection loses the ability to imagine that other people are real. Solitude is fueled by hunger, hunger for the truth about yourself. It expands you, it softens you. And here is the test, the only test that matters. Solitude sends you back. Real solitude always sends you back. Moses came out of the desert and went straight to Egypt. Joseph came out of the prison and went straight to the palace. Elijah came out of the cave with a commission and a successor. Jesus came out of the wilderness and immediately began calling people to himself. Every one of them went in alone and came out for others. If your solitude is making you avoid people, it is not solitude. It is a hiding place with a spiritual name on the door. Real solitude makes you better company, not less company. It makes you able to be with people without needing anything from them, which is the only condition under which love is actually possible. You cannot love people you need. You can only cling to them, and you will need them until you have learned to be alone. That is the paradox at the center of all of this. The person who can walk alone is the only person capable of real relationship. because they are not there for the supply. They are not there to be filled. They arrive already full. And what they bring is a gift instead of a demand. Everyone in your life right now is exhausted by your need, or you are exhausted by theirs. And it will stay that way until someone in that equation learns to walk alone. Let it be you. Let me tell you about a man who was given an army and then had it taken away. Gideon had 32,000 soldiers. He was outnumbered anyway, and 32,000 was already not enough. And God told him it was too many. Send home anyone who is afraid. 22,000 left, 10,000 remained, still too many. Take them to the water and watch how they drink. And by that strange test, 9,700 more were sent away. 300 remained. 300 against an army the scripture describes as being like locusts, as numerous as the sand on the seashore. Why would God do that? Why would he take a man who was already terrified and strip away 99% of his support? Because Gideon did not need an army. Gideon needed to find out what was in him. And as long as there were 32,000 men behind him, he would never find out. He would win and credit the numbers. He would lose and blame the numbers. Either way, he would go to his grave never knowing what he actually was, because the crowd was in the way of the discovery. God does not take things away from you to weaken you. He takes them away to show you what was never dependent on them. Look at what has been taken from you in the last few years. The relationship, the job, the community, the version of your life you assumed was permanent. You have been grieving it as a loss. Consider tonight for the first time that it might have been a subtraction with a purpose. That the 32,000 had to go so that you could find out you were never being carried by them. You have been calling it abandonment. It might have been curation. The people who left were not supposed to be there for this part. That is not a comforting thing to say, and I'm not saying it to comfort you. I'm saying it because it is true, and because the sooner you accept it, the sooner you can stop trying to rebuild an army you were never meant to have. 300 is enough. Sometimes one is enough. Sometimes you plus the thing inside you is the entire army, and everything else was noise. If someone left this year, if a door closed that you tried desperately to hold open, drop the word 300 in the comments. Just those words, because I want you to see how many people are standing exactly where you are standing tonight, holding a smaller army than they expected, and about to find out it was always enough. Now let me address the thing you have not said out loud. You are afraid that if you walk alone, you will be alone forever. That is the fear underneath all the other fears. That solitude is a door that only opens one direction. That if you stop performing, stop pleasing, stop shrinking yourself to fit the rooms you are in, everyone will leave and no one will come, and you will die in a quiet house with no one to notice. I want to tell you what actually happens, and I want you to understand that this is not a theory. What happens is that some people leave. That part is true, and I am not going to lie to you about it. When you stop being who they needed you to be, the ones who were there for the performance will go. It will hurt. It will hurt more than you expect, because you will discover that some of the relationships you were counting as love were transactions, and finding that out is its own grief. But then something else happens. The right people start to arrive, not because you found them, because they can finally see you. You were invisible before. You were wearing so many costumes that no one who was looking for the real thing could locate you in the crowd. And the moment you stopped, the moment you became a solid, identifiable, unmistakable person, the people who were looking for that person could suddenly find you. You have been complaining that no one really knows you. No one really knows you because you have not been anywhere. You have been a reflection of whoever was in the room, and you cannot be found if you are a mirror. Become someone. Then be found. That is the order. It has always been the order, and it takes courage, because there is a gap between the leaving and the arriving, and that gap is the loneliest place a human being can stand. I am not going to tell you the gap is short. Sometimes it is years, but I will tell you that everyone who is now surrounded by people who genuinely know them walked through that gap first. There is no version of this where you keep the fake and receive the real. You have to let go of one hand before the other can be filled. Napoleon Hill said that the most successful people he studied all had one thing in common, and it was not talent, and it was not education, and it was not luck. It was that at some point they made a decision that they were going to become a specific person, and they stopped consulting the crowd about it. He said that most people never make a definite decision about anything in their entire lives, and so they drift, blown by every opinion. And at the end they wonder where their life went. Their life went into other people's opinions. That is where it went. Do not let that be your story. There is a moment in the Gospels that I have never been able to get past. Jesus at the height of it. The crowds are enormous. He has just fed thousands of people. He is at the peak of public acclaim, the moment every human being spends their life chasing, and the scripture says he sent the multitudes away and went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when evening came, he was there alone. He was there alone. The most magnetic person who ever lived, at the single moment when the crowd wanted him most, walked away from all of it to be by himself in the dark. And he did this constantly. Before he chose the 12, he spent the entire night alone. Before the cross, he went into a garden and asked everyone to stay back. In the middle of a season of miracles, the text says, he withdrew into the wilderness and prayed. Over and over, the pattern is the same. Engage, withdraw. Give, refill. Crowd, solitude. He never let the crowd set the rhythm. That is the thing. It is not that he avoided people. He gave himself to people more completely than anyone in history, but he did it from a place the crowd could not touch, refilled in a room the crowd could not enter, anchored in a relationship the crowd did not mediate. And that is why he could not be moved. Not because he did not feel, he wept, he grieved, he was moved with compassion. But he could not be manipulated, could not be flattered into anything, could not be shamed into anything, because his sense of who he was did not come from the room he was standing in. Where does yours come from? Be honest tonight. Where does your sense of who you are actually come from? Is it from the quiet, or is it from the last thing someone said about you? If a compliment can lift you for a day, then an insult can destroy you for a week. That is the same mechanism. You do not get to keep the one and refuse the other. If you are built by the crowd, you can be dismantled by the crowd. That is not a warning, that is arithmetic. The only way out is to be built somewhere the crowd cannot reach, and that is what the refining silence is. It is not a technique, it is a relocation. It is moving the foundation of your identity from the outside to the inside, from the seen to the unseen, from the applause to the altar, and it can only be done in a room where nobody is. Now I want to come back to the question I asked you at the beginning. Do you remember it? If every voice around you went quiet tomorrow, if no one called, if no one watched, if no one applauded, who would you become? I am going to answer it now, and the answer is not what you think. You would not become anyone. You would become who you already are. That is the entire secret. Solitude does not create the unstoppable version of you. It reveals it. It does not add, it removes. The thing you are looking for is not out there waiting to be built. It is already in you, buried under 30 years of other people's expectations. And every hour you spend alone is an hour of excavation. You are not becoming someone new, you are returning to someone original. There was a version of you at 7 years old who knew exactly what they loved, who said exactly what they thought, who had not yet learned to calculate whether it would go over well. That child is not dead. That child is buried. And every layer you remove in the silence brings you closer to the person you were before the world got its hands on you. That is why it is called the still small voice. It is small because it is old. It is small because it has been shouted over for decades. It is small because it never learned to compete. It has been waiting patiently your entire life for you to be quiet enough to hear it, and it will wait as long as it takes, and it will not raise its volume to get your attention. You have to go to it. It will not come to you. The scripture says, be still and know. Notice the order. The stillness comes first, and the knowing comes second, and the second is impossible without the first. You have been trying to know without being still. That is why you have read every book and taken every course, and listened to every teacher, and you still do not know who you are. The knowing was never going to come through your ears. It was always going to come through your silence. I want you to breathe with me for a moment before we finish. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, If you can, close your eyes. Breathe in slowly. Count to 4. Hold it. Count to 4. Let it go. Slowly. Count to 6. Do that again. In for 4. Hold for 4. Count for 6. And now in this small pocket of quiet, I want you to notice something. Right here in these few seconds, there is no one else. No one is watching. No one is waiting for a response. Nothing is required of you. And you are still here. You did not disappear when the noise stopped. You are still here. There is a person in there, breathing, present, real, who exists whether or not anyone is looking. That person is who I have been talking about this entire time. That person is the one who is unstoppable. Not because they are stronger than everyone else, but because they do not need anyone else to exist. Feel that for one more breath. In for 4. Out for 6. Now open your eyes. That was 30 seconds. Imagine an hour, imagine 30 days. Imagine what would be uncovered in you if you gave that person 1 hour every day for a year. Everything you are chasing is under there. So here is where I leave you tonight. Tomorrow the noise comes back. The messages, the demands, the people, the pull. It will come back at full volume and it will act like nothing was ever said here. That is what noise does. It has no memory of the silence, but you will remember. And somewhere in that day, there will be a small moment, a gap. 4 minutes in a parking lot, 10 minutes before anyone wakes up. One moment where you could reach for the phone or you could not. And in that moment, everything I have said will be decided. Not in a grand decision, in a small one. It always happens in a small one. Choose the silence. Once, just once tomorrow, choose it. And then again the next day. And in a year, you will not recognize the person you have become, and neither will anyone else. And they will ask you what happened, what course you took, what changed, and you will not have an answer that satisfies them, because the answer is nothing happened. That is exactly what happened. Nothing happened over and over in a quiet room until everything changed. You do not need a crowd to become who you are. You never did. The crowd was never building you. It was only watching, and it was often in the way. Walk alone. Not because you have given up on people, but because you have finally decided to become someone worth being with. Walk alone. Not because no one wanted you, but because you stopped needing to be wanted before you knew who you were. Walk alone. Because the desert is where Moses was made, and the pit is where Joseph was made, and the cave is where Elijah was made, and the field is where David was made, and the river is where Jacob was renamed, and the mountain in the dark is where the greatest life ever lived was refilled every single time. Every one of them walked out of that silence and shook the world. You are in your silence right now. That is why you found this. That is why you are still here at this hour when you should have been asleep an hour ago. Something in you knows. Do not run from it. It is not punishment. It is the last stage before you become unrecognizable. The refining silence is working on you right now. Let it finish. Now, before you go, do 3 things for me. If anything I said tonight touched something real in you, hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it puts this in front of someone else who is sitting alone right now thinking that their silence means they failed. You could be the reason they find out it does not. Subscribe and turn on the bell, because I make these for people who are in the middle of the hard part, and if you are here, you are one of them. I do not want you to have to find your way back. I want it to find you, and in the comments, leave 1 phrase, just this. Write, I walk alone and I am becoming. Write it exactly like that, because I want you to see your own words on a screen, and I want you to see how many other people wrote the same thing tonight, in different countries, in different rooms, all of them alone, all of them together in the only way that matters. And if you know someone who is in their desert right now, someone who has gone quiet, someone who stopped answering, send this to them. Do not ask them how they are doing. They will lie. Just send it. Let the silence speak to the silence. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. And when it is finished, when the refining is done, you are going to walk out of this season and the world is not going to know what hit it. Go be alone. It is where you were always going to be made.